meeting for August 10th, 2022. Jessica, will you please take roll?
Felisa Monteblanco.
Here.
Barbie Miner.
Here.
Alfredo Moreno.
I'm here.
Heidi Edwards.
Here.
Tia Ping.
Here.
Thank you. We have no action resulting from executive session, and my understanding is that we don't have any audience comment. So we will jump right into board time. Updates from peers? I know y'all been busy this summer
I'll start.
with park stuff.
Yeah, well, it feels like it's been a while since we've met because we didn't have a July meeting. But just a few little updates about liaisoning. First of all, just at the end of July, the Wish Camper Affordable Housing had their groundbreaking, which was it was great, delightful to be at, considering all of the work that has been done by this board and previous board with SDCs and the staff and the team that have, worked really hard there. So just some highlights. If you don't remember Wish Camper, 164 affordable housing units, which is exciting. And then 13 acres of forest and trail network and 2 half-acre pocket parks. I mean, there's more to say about it, but it was really nice to be there and with a number of local electeds and folks that have been stakeholders in this process. Secondly, the Preschool for All, you all received an email with the heads up that unfortunately the hard work of a dedicated team for quite some time it's not going to the ballot in November as we had hoped. Washington County Commissioners voted it down, assuming or stating that their staff didn't have the capacity to really scope it out to the extent that they would have liked to. I think it's disappointing because we have local counties doing this work already that we can piggyback on, and we just, it wasn't expected to get the no vote to send it to the ballot. So the plan is there will be we'll be gathering voter signatures. And when I say we, I say the community. We'd like to see that go to the ballot in 2024. The next meeting with that group is next Friday, so I'll update you on that. And Metro levy resolution, we're going to address that tonight, but I was able to speak to the Metro board in support of the levy renewal. We know that Cooper Mountain is one of our beloved spaces, and we partner with Metro, and so this levy renewal would benefit us in many ways and the work we do with Metro. So lastly, I'd love to say kudos to our staff. It has been hot outside, which means it's also hot inside. And I had the privilege of taking a little one to summer camp when it was really hot. And the staff were amazing taking care of those little kids. But then also today, although today only 80 degrees, just seeing the maintenance staff out painting, fixing up features in the fields and stuff. I just want to give a shout out to those who are working outside in the heat, because we know it's not an easy task, and thank you for your work. And that's it.
Thanks, Heidi. Other updates?
I don't really have any updates. I will say that my family has thoroughly enjoyed THPRD this summer, and we have kids in camps like almost every week, from tennis to swimming to Traces and Fairy Tale preschool camp. So I really appreciate that we opened up camps this year for that 3 to preschool age, because it's been full and everyone seems to love it, and it's been a good step for especially the little ones who have gone through COVID not being in a education place. So it's just been wonderful. And just a reminder that this weekend is fall registration on Saturday. So everyone should get up on that also.
Fairy Tale Preschool sounds amazing, and I need all the info about that and qualify.
It's just like the weekly theme. So they could do like a bunch of different art and crafts and all that stuff that has, yeah, it's wonderful. He is having a blast.
Maybe we should offer it for adults. Go ahead, Alfredo.
Yes, I'll just piggyback off that as a fellow parent of a summer camper. Whatever THPRD is doing at its various camps, it is working. I've been critiqued twice. First for asking my soon-to-be second grader to take a break from Conestoga Day Camp to go to the Nature Center and do a week there, and then was read the riot act for the fact that the nature camp was only 1 week, and she was going back to Conestoga, and she wanted to stay at the nature camp for the rest of the summer. And I'm sure she'll be upset when she goes to the play sport camp at Greenway Park next week, but you got to be ready for life's little adventures, I keep telling her. So within the THPRD umbrella, there is many adventures to be found. So thanks for all the offerings, and we are getting a lot out of it. So just wanted to share that good work.
Thank you, Alfredo. Barbie, you're all good. You're good. I'll share that the Nature and Trails Advisory Committee visited this one day will be the Beaverton Creek Trail which was lovely. And thank you to Bruce for leading those efforts and being so patient as we all ask our very, very specific questions about each intersection and every opportunity. I also just happened to visit Pio Park recently, and I'm mortified that it took me this long because that park is perfection. So thank you to everyone who worked on that. That park is lovely. And then more kudos. I did not go to Big Truck Day, but all my friends did, and I heard it was amazing. And it just filled my Facebook feed with all these kiddos in big trucks. So I know that is a logistical a nightmare, but it's a lot of work. So I appreciate all the people that make that happen, from the staff to the drivers, to the parents who hang out in the sun. So thanks, everybody. And with that, we'll go to the consent agenda.
Well, I would like to move that the board approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Mrs. Tia, I can second.
Barbie Minor,
Yes.
Heidi Edwards,
Yes.
Tia Ping,
Yes.
Alfredo Moreno,
Yes.
Luis de Monteblanco.
Yes. Thank you, Jessica. And that takes us to unfinished business. Doug. Doug is muted.
Cooperative Mouse. Aisha is up with the overview for us, and we have a lot of exciting things that are happening and about ready to happen.
Yes, a little recap and a teaser. So I'm here to share with you tonight where we are operationally. We've done this periodically for you, as well as sharing with you our revised spending plan, which we had committed to bringing back to you on a quarterly basis to help you understand how we're managing within our authorization of the budget to kind of cover costs and make sure that we are staying right-sized in our approach as we're rebuilding from the pandemic. So the next slide, I'll give you an overview of what we're talking about today. We've got some summer camp information, summer events, because there is still time. We've got some really fun things to talk about with regard to community engagement and staffing. DEIA continues to be a strong focus for our organization. We want to share with you some of the things that are happening there. And we are heavily into our, we're just a month and a half-ish into our new fiscal year, but we are starting to knock off some of our capital projects. So we'll talk about that. I'll give you some updates on our fall prep work and then talk about our revised spending plan. So we'll kick it off on the next slide with our summer camps and programming. I know we have a couple of board members that love numbers, and so we hope that we are delivering on numbers for you with this slide. What we wanted to share is just all the different facilities that we have here at the district that are offering some summer camps. And you'll see that it's quite a range. We've got 2 at the Aquatic Center, but 231 at Cedar Hills. And so we're really creative with how this is being delivered. You know, all of our facilities have different size rooms that are available for these types of activities. And for the centers that don't really have a lot of room, or maybe they've maxed out what they've gotten creative and they're doing things differently. You know, Director Alfredo just mentioned that he has a kid going to camp at Greenway soon. My kid's been doing half-day camps at Roxbury Park. And so it's been really great to see how we're making use of not just our facilities, but other spaces to deliver these great and frankly necessary summer camps so that we can do work and do other things while our kids are having a great time out there in our parks and spaces. So we have 500 and nearly 50 camps that are being offered this summer, and we've had 8,757 participants in these programs. So it feels like a really great move in the right direction from what we've experienced in the last few years. Thank you for the applause. It's wonderful. So the next slide, we have some information about our summer registration, and you know, to really gauge how we are returning to form, we took a look at what we had in terms of registrations in 2021 and now in 2022. So we were up about 25% from what was present last summer. And this is due to a couple of factors. We're able to offer more camps, and we're able to hire more staff to run those camps. So that's been really great to see. The other really neat thing is that we, in addition to having more offerings and more camps, we're able to get back to some of the activities that we did. So we had to drastically re-envision how we offered summer camps back in the summer of 2020. One of the things that is a hallmark of a lot of the summer camps we offer are our field trips. And so while we're not going quite as far afield as we may have done in years past, we are able to get kids out to our splash pads and different activities around the region. So that's been a really welcome thing. Next slide, please. All right, so in terms of our summer 2022 events, we have 20 different special events that are held between the unofficial kickoff to summer of Memorial Day, because we know in Oregon, summer doesn't start until July 5th, and September, when everybody's going back into school. So these special events are a variety of different things. We've got concerts, we've got a series called Enchanted Family Days, which are visits out into our parks. We've had theater, we've had cultural celebrations, and what we're really excited about is this Canine Community Carnival. So we are looking for an opportunity to provide something for everyone to participate with the Park District this summer. Next slide, please. In terms of the work we're doing here for diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, one of the really neat things that I'm thrilled to share with you is the image on the left side of the screen, which is MEPA THPRD. And this is our, you may recognize it as similar to our nature and trails map that we've produced in the past, but this one is all in Spanish. And so what was really exciting about this is that our staff collaborated with a bunch of Latinx families and Spanish speakers to really hone in on the resources and information that these community members would find helpful in navigating our parks and our trails. So our nature and trails staff, our communication staff, they gathered information from internal and external partners in order to co-create the content for that map. So we have produced those. We are now distributing them across the district, which is really, really great. We also want to talk a little bit about Welcoming Week, and this is an annual series of events that happens in September each year. And this is where organizations and communities bring together immigrants and those born within their countries in a spirit of unity. And it's an attempt to really build strong connections across the community for these folks. And the main activities here are hosting activities, placemaking events, celebrations that welcome our immigrant and refugee community members. Since 2019, we've participated along with the city of Beaverton in Welcoming Week activities, but in 2022, we became an umbrella of our own, and we are now an official member of the Welcoming Network of Welcoming America. So we're very excited about that. So in 2022, we have centers and programs that are going to focus on an Afghan community welcoming event, an active aging week, a walks, bike rides, and cultural communities connection with Venezuela's voice. We've got family time with Cool Islam, a bilingual book reading. The Parivar Park opening is going to be really exciting. We've offered multicultural Zumba and lots more. So last item on this slide over on the right, the backpacks is a collaboration with Wake Up Beaverton, which works with Beaverton School District, City of Beaverton, and THPRD. And we're hosting 4 events that are going to help distribute 10,000 backpacks to students returning to school in the fall. So our financial aid program is going to deliver bilingual information through those backpacks, as well as job and volunteer activities. So really a wonderful demonstration of us working with our partners to get out messaging that supports the community, helps us do our job, hopefully brings more people in to connect with THPRD. All right, next slide, please. We wanted to share with you some images of the culturally specific event programming that we've been doing. And so you'll see we have some photos from the Eid event that we had. We had the Mercado Cultural Anahuaca, and then we also had Mahaba, which was hosted at Garden Home. And in the lower right, you may recognize the face. This is our wonderful staff member over at Garden Home, Rita, and she was a huge force behind the Mahaba program. So we wanted to give her a special bit of thanks for that. Thank you. All right, next slide, please. I mentioned that we wanted to share with you some of our success stories regarding community engagement, and the Abbey Creek Park event was a wonderful demonstration of that work. Over the last several years, we have reimagined community engagement, and this has been a wonderful partnership between our communications group as well as our design and development group. And really, we focused on going out and seeking feedback from people where they want to play. And so what you see here is a design opportunity for people to give their thoughts about the phase 2 development that is planned for Abbey Creek Park. And what is amazing about this is that we had more than 800 people provide comment and feedback on this design, which is, as a former planner, I will say, anytime we've gone out to solicit input on plans, you're lucky if you get 50 people to show up. So the fact that we had 800 people sharing their thoughts about how this park would ultimately develop was just incredible. And we got the feedback of all generations. We have the children there telling us exactly what they think. So that was a wonderful success, and it's the model that we're using moving forward. So now on the next slide, I want to tease a little bit about something you're going to hear more about in the next presentation, but this is some important work that we're doing in partnership with the City of Beaverton, and it's regarding our Downtown Beaverton Parks and Open Space Framework Plan. And you can see the timeline that we're working through, so we're kind of in the middle of it right now. But this is a joint plan between THPRD and the city on what it looks like downtown, how it's activated. So many great things are happening in the city of Beaverton. Parks is a part of that framework. And so that is the point of this effort. So you'll hear from Gary Keck in a little bit about how that is going. Next slide, please. All right. I mean, I just feel like after so many not great news updates that I've provided in the last couple of years, this is just chock full of good news. So one of the things we wanted to share with you about our staffing is, we've come several times to say, boy, it's hard hiring people. What's great, though, is that in that period between May 1st and the end of July, we got almost 1,200 applications in for open positions. We were able to hire over 400 of those people. We're also making great strides in diversifying our workforce and making sure that it's more reflective of our community. So right now, as we're hiring folks, and a lot of these do represent the part-time staff, but that's where we're making a big difference. We're getting over 38% of our incoming folks are identifying themselves as people of color, which overall increases what our workforce looks like. And we're now looking at about a third of our workforce identifying as people of color, which we think is great because we want to represent our community. We want to have similar demographics. We want people to see themselves represented in all of what we provide. So that is a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to share with you. On the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about one of the things we think is responsible for these increases, and these are our merit increase and referral incentives. So a great thing is that we were able to increase our merits for October 1st for our ongoing part-time employees. So those that have been with us will be eligible for that merit increase. And then we've also been using this referral incentive where folks can suggest someone else, they come and work with us. And if they stay long enough, they get a referral incentive and a retention incentive, that they can get an additional incentive for those folks that have stayed longer. So as of today, 83 employees have made that referral, and we've offered $9,000 in incentives to those folks. So very great thing. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we are in the throes of our capital program for the fiscal year. And so two of the big things that we're working on right now are improvements to the parking lot and access point for Harmon Swim Center. That's a facility that has been closed since March of 2020. And this is work we absolutely wanted to get done prior to reopening that facility. So you'll see we've got a lot of concrete work going on there in the lower left of the screen. And what we're excited about is that our plans are to reopen Harmon once the project is complete and we've got our staff in place. We are looking at opening September 19th. So there will be a little sneak preview at the site the week prior so that people can come in and just reconnect to what we're doing there in the center. So this is a long time coming and we're very excited. We do still have two other pools that will remain closed for the time being. We're hopeful that in November, we might be able to open the Aloha Swim Center. And sometime in early 2023, we're looking at being able to reopen Sunset. These are totally dependent on our ability to hire and staff up for those spaces, but that's our hope. We may have some modified schedules, but we'd love to be able to open those facilities after several long years. Over on the right side of the screen, you can see the Garden Home Recreation Center, and you just did approve two actions within the consent agenda regarding that project. We have both structural repairs that are being done by one specialty contractor and then some flat roof repairs. You can see we have an unfortunate ponding situation on the roof there. So we are going to be able to move forward with those projects between August and November and bolster that roof, replace what's not doing well, and preserve that building for a little bit longer. So next slide, please. All right, well, we're getting through summer, but the fun never stops because we're a seasonal operation, and when summer ends, it's now into fall. So as was mentioned earlier, we do have our fall registration happening this Saturday. And so in preparation of that, we're doing all sorts of work to advertise registration, but we're also talking about our other activities. As I mentioned, Welcoming Week will be coming up the week of September 9th through 18th. On Monday, you will have an opportunity to pre-reserve your plants through the native plant sale. We have a resource fair, a health and wellness resource fair that is going to happen in late September. And then we're also looking forward to registration for our Thrive After School program that will begin in September. So all very good things that are happening. Next slide, please. All right, and then kind of on the non-program side, some of the activities that we're looking into are that we are recruiting for a budget committee member. And I think that is going to be underway soon. We are doing some prep work because we are now committing ourselves to doing annual reviews of our healthcare partnerships. You may recall that we have partnerships with Silver Sneakers, Silver and Fit, and Renew Active. So we will be going through that review process in advance of every calendar year to make sure that our rates and reimbursement rates specifically are kept up to date. You did in the consent agenda as well approve some work on Tyler Munis. So we are bringing in some help to get us through the end part of that process and that conversion. And then we've talked to you and provided regular updates on our comp plan update as well as the strategic plan. So within the next few months, you'll see some more work on those items coming forward. Next slide, please. All right, finally, the last bit of information that I have in the presentation is regarding our revised spending plan. And what you see on here is the chart that indicates where we are. And so the leftmost column talks about our adopted budget, and then our initial revision. I have a tiny coworker come to visit. Hello, everyone. And so the change that we've noticed. So the second column from the right is the one that I want to bring your attention to. And what we have here is we're showing that we actually ended up with more cash on hand than we expected, about $8 million worth. And the rationale for that is that we had reduced spending in that fiscal year 22. So the year ending July 30, we ended up spending less than we expected. So that number, that's a good thing. We did notice that there were almost $3 million less in our program resources, and that has a lot to do with the reduction in programs that didn't run, for example. And then the big ticket number in the other resources and grants is the 5.4 million. 5 million of that is a grant that we were informed we did not win. So we were showing that amount in our budget. We didn't move forward in that process, so therefore that is no longer there. On the lower table, we've got our expenditures, and what we're showing there are the differences we experienced as well. So a lot of this is just savings that we've had from unfilled positions, for example. Again, the $5 million is showing there for the grant that we anticipated as a pass-through that is not going to come our way. And then the 1.8 number there, the $1.8 million is a reduction in the expenditures. So we've talked before about the fact that if we don't run camps or classes, we then also don't have the accompanying cost to run those with the staffing. So generally those even out. They don't quite in this case, but we have some other offsets that we're dealing with. So overall, we're doing where we expected, and we continue to manage our finances within the constraints of the world that we live in currently. So I will pause there and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Aisha. That's great.
It's lovely to share good news. I see a couple of hands. Heidi?
Yeah, just a quick question regarding it. Was it one grant that we did not, we were not awarded, or multiple grants that we weren't awarded that we thought maybe?
We had a number of grants. I think there was something like $17 million worth of pass-through amount that we thought we could potentially qualify for. The 5 million was the big one.
Can you share what that was?
Oh, yes, it was a request to the Economic Development Administration, and it was to do some improvements on the north side of the Howard M. Turpinning Recreation Complex. So this was going to provide a synthetic turf at one of our baseball fields, enhance some parking, repaving some parking, and then an outdoor pickleball tournament site. So
Great.
we understand it was a very competitive program, and we did not win those funds, but that was the big one. There may be, I believe, some good news to share with you on a different grant that we went after, and I don't think I can share that now, but very soon we will be able to share all that good news.
Thank you for those details, and still impressive. 17 million, and we got what, 12?
Or it's still in process.
Or still in process. Okay.
This was one we know is not moving forward.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, grants team, for the work.
Definitely. And you will have an update on our grants next month. So we will absolutely have more information to share with you then.
I think I'm up. Thank you, Aisha. I was just gushing earlier today about all the work that the district has been doing since my time and before to ramp up the inclusivity of our communities and creating new generations of work users. So kudos to the map. I was just curious, those are just kind of sprinkled around throughout the community, or how are those distributed?
We typically distribute them at all of our facilities. So there's often a brochure rack or something where we will place all of those. We can make a special delivery to each and every one of you if you would like to distribute those within the community as well. But you can absolutely find them at our recreation centers.
Okay. Yeah, I might take you up on that. I think that would be great to put those in. If there's an opportunity to put those in a community supermarket or something like that, as folks are leaving, they might just grab it on their way out and open it up absentmindedly and see that there's something that they had never seen right around the corner or within a easy walk. So that would be great. So yes, happy to help there, however possible. My second and final question was just a welcoming week, and it's just so we are now an independent part of this national welcome week, right? I'm understanding that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So City of Beaverton is probably still doing our efforts, I guess. Is it still kind of a partnership, or are they just running kind of parallel, or how does that work with City of Beaverton?
I do not have the details on that. Sadly, on that particular topic, I was covering for our wonderful communications director who's taking a very well-earned vacation with her family. We
How dare
do
she.
have later this evening a presentation from Lulu, and Lulu may be able to provide some additional information on that.
Okay, I will grill Lulu later. Thanks,
Thank
Aisha.
you. Sure.
Thank you, Aisha, very much. Always nice to hear good news. And we'll jump into downtown Beaverton Parks and Open Space Framework Plan.
Gary Keck. Gary, there he is.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having us. I'm Gary Keck. I'm the Design and Development Manager with the Park District, and I'm joined with Sarah King is here. She's the Senior Development Project Manager for the City of Beaverton. And tonight there's no formal action being requested. We're here to provide an overview of the Downtown Parks and Open Space Framework Plan. And this is the plan that'll help determine how we bring parks and recreation amenities to downtown with our partner at the City of Beaverton. And the city and THPRD did hire a consulting team last fall, and it's made up of two agencies. Well, one's named Agency, Agency Landscape and Planning, and the other one is Mayor Reed. And what we'll do is I'll lead us through the presentation, and at the end, Sarah and I could answer any questions that you may have. So next slide, please. So the Downtown Parks and Open Space Framework Plan builds on about a decade worth of work that the city's been doing in leading in downtown planning. And it's also going to take into account the extensive community outreach that THPRD's been doing as well. But in particular, the plan's going to build off the Beaverton Downtown Equity Strategy, the Central Beaverton Urban Renewal Plan, and the THPRD's Vision Action Plan, which you all know quite a bit about. We want to build all the great work that the city's been doing, and bring in all the things that THPRD and the city has been hearing in the last decade, including art, like the talking walls. There's an example there on the left, and also we always hear a lot about ways to connect with nature. So the plan starts there, and we're building off that. So next slide, please. So the framework plan defines downtown as the area outlined here. It's hashed. It's the hashed orange line. And the recommendations from this plan will be focused within this area. But to understand the area defined as downtown, our team is also looking at all the demographics and other data from the broader area outlined there in gray, just outside of downtown, which contains pieces of other neighborhoods that you can see here. And we're looking at the existing parks as well that THPRD has, as well as the city has one down there, City Park, and make sure that we're not recreating the wheel, and that we're really tailoring this framework plan to the unique conditions and needs of downtown. So the map shows the general boundary of the downtown area. The southern boundary is 5th Street, right there at the Beaverton Library and City Park. The northern boundary is Centro Street, And on the west, we're over there at Hawken Avenue. And then on the far east, we go to about 117th is what we're looking at. Next slide, please. So the project will provide a high-level plan that builds on the previous plans, like I mentioned, but these are the project goals that we're looking at. We want to find out the types of parks, such as plazas or pocket parks or natural spaces. We're looking for recommending general locations of parks and open spaces in downtown. And we want to determine what types of activities the public wants to do downtown to help determine what amenities maybe. And we also want to determine the look and feel of downtown with this plan. And then ways to provide welcoming and inclusive spaces is a priority. And within the plan, we're looking to have an implementation strategy as well. So next slide. So to do this, we just finished up our first phase of community engagement. We use several tools and approaches to reach out to our community, including a web page for the project. We use social media. We had an interested party list, but we also created an engagement plan that included, we had 31 events or meetings that we attended to seek community input. And you can see here the numbers in the text, the events that we went to. So we had 5 presentations to either city or THPRD committees. We had pop-up tabling events. We went out to the community events and were part of those events that were already happening. We had 10 of those. We actually did 10 focus groups with community-based organizations, and we had 6 youth outreach events that we went to. And we ended up engaging with over 1,600 community members throughout this project, which was pretty impressive. And you can also see that we had an online survey. We had 317 community members complete that survey. So it's been a successful engagement process, and now we are going through all the information. So that's where we are right now. We got a lot of input, and we're going to start going through that. So next slide, please. So at these events and meetings, we had 4 common questions for the community. And here you can see them. The first question is, what types of parks and open spaces, natural areas would you like to see? And as I mentioned, this includes neighborhood parks or natural areas. But if you recall, it also has the 2019 update to the Parks Functional Plan. We added 2 categories, plazas and pocket parks. And that was mainly to accommodate for future growth in downtown. So as I mentioned, we're still going through all the information, but I can give you a little, we're starting to see a couple of common themes with this question in particular. We're starting to see people are interested in connecting green spaces and trails for walking and exercising. We're seeing a lot of comments on amphitheater for performance, music, or movies. And then another one that we've talked about here with this group quite a bit is shaded and covered areas is coming up as well. So the second question there, what types of activities would you like to do in these spaces? Again, some early findings are gathering spaces for sitting and eating is coming up. We're seeing also play areas for all ages, including water play is starting to rise to the top as well. And then the third question, do you have ideas for the design, look, and feel of these spaces that fit downtown Beaverton? And we're hearing a lot. One of the most common ones right now is nature. Trees, native plants, restoration, wildlife. That's coming up quite a bit, as well as art. Art in the parks is another one that's been common. And then the last question here that we've been asking the community is, what ideas do you have to help make these spaces welcoming and inclusive to everyone? We're hearing bathrooms and drinking fountains are coming up quite a bit. We've heard cultural specific spaces and representation, as well as accessible and activities for sensory play has come up. So those are just some of the early findings. We'll we'll keep going through the information. If you go to the next slide, I'll show you the timeline, which falls in place with what Aisha just showed. We again wrapping up our community engagement right now in the summer here, and we're gonna review all the input, and we're going to start creating the draft plan. That's the next step. And we're going to start sharing that with the public, we hope, in September, and we'll bring it back to this board as well as City Council in probably October-ish. And we anticipate holding another community workshop. We haven't determined if it'll be virtual or in person, but we want to, get some feedback from the public on the plan once it's out on the street. And once we've finished that second phase of engagement, we'll revise the plan and with all the input that we'd heard, and we'll come back to this board as well as City Council for approval of the plan. And we're hoping that'll be late fall, possibly December. So next slide is the last one. So that concludes the presentation. And as I mentioned, there's no formal action being requested. It's an update tonight, and we'll return in the fall with a draft plan. But Sarah and I are both here willing to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Gary. This is exciting. I'm excited to see what the future holds for our downtown parks, and I love some of those examples you were showing across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Do my peers have questions? I have one.
Okay.
I saw accessibility focus group. Is that new? Do we typically do that? It sounds wonderful, but tell me more.
Yeah, that's a group. Sarah, if you're on, Sarah helped put that group together through the city. It was I don't know if it was a new group for us. I'll say yes, Felicita, for sure. But it's a group that the city had some members that were interested in the project. So we presented to them. They're one of our last focus groups, but it was a few weeks ago actually, and they were a good group. They had a lot of good insight. What was interesting is they brought up birding quite a bit. Some of them live downtown, and one of the things they do is go on their balcony and they look for birds. And so nature play came out of that group as well, or not nature play, but nature, the theme of nature and wildlife. So.
Sure, I can jump in, Gary. We've been also, many of you may be familiar that Beaverton is doing a refresh of its city vision. And we had had put together an accessibility focus group for that. So we then, at the end of that focus group, asked if anybody wanted to participate in a specific focus group on accessibility for this project. And we had half a dozen people wanted to participate in that. So we kind of piggyback off the focus group we were using for our visioning update. And it was great. We had folks that had physical disabilities. We also had folks who had chronic illnesses that made it hard for them to, was also a mobility issue. So, and we also had some folks who were older. So they brought an elder perspective to the group. And as Gary said, they had some really interesting things to say. Some things we expected to hear, other things, as Gary said, we tend to think of parks providing benefit to people to access the park, but it became very clear that people were looking at the visual and audible proximity to parks as well, from their balconies, from their windows. And that was sort of a new and sort of exciting thing to hear.
That's wonderful. I'm so excited to hear that, and to hear that there were 6 people. Like, I know that'll just grow over the years. We as a board will likely be having a disability justice training during a work session in the next couple months, and we're on our own journey in being stronger allies and ensuring that we're serving the whole community. So I'm really excited to hear that. Thank you for doing that, and I'm glad that we're learning. Thank you. Any other questions for Gary or Sarah? With that, thank you, Gary and Sarah, very, very much for all that hard work. And we'll kick it to Lulu.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, and checking mic. Yes. Good evening, Lulu Ballesteros. Ella, she, her. I'm the Cultural Inclusion Specialist with the Communication Division. I'm here on behalf of the Centro de Bienvenida team to provide an update for Summer Centro. It is a great moment to do this because we're in the middle of fall Centro de Bienvenida. So the team is just cleaning up. If you hear some noise, it's because maybe they're still up doing that. So as you may recall, sometime back in March, we talked about meaningful access and about language access policy work. And we provided an update on spring registration. It just passed. We had hosted our first Centro that moved from registration day event to a full week of assistance on the selection of classes, activities, as well as access to information and resources before opening day. So it was it's time to come back and share additional updates and the results from summer registration, alongside with the significance of the Migrant Education Program partnership that we have ongoing. On the next slide, we can see, we talked a little bit about this, but for summer, again, a full week of assistance before opening day. Also, we provided the option of having day appointments for people that could not make it in the evening. Maybe they work in evenings, so they had the option to come in the morning, and we can tend to those families. And then we had the evening times where families could just drop in, get information, get signed up. Then also very important, personalized attention. Our staff took 30, 40 minutes, sometimes more, with families. Of course, it's registering for classes and activities and camps, but it was also maybe mom wanted to volunteer and dad wanted to go walk with me or fitness in the park and find out about passes. There's so much more than just the classes and camps that we've been offering through Centro. So that's one of the biggest highlights. And also we have trilingual staff, like our wonderful Rita, talking to a family in Kurdish, and the next one was Arabic, and the next one was financial aid in English. We have a lot of returning folks that now know how to either sign up online or they have questions about the activity guide. So we're really taking the time with patrons and supporting them. Of course, we receive support from our wonderful volunteers, bilingual staff. We have interpreters. There's a lot of resources that have been adding on to Centro. And then new partnerships, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And on our next slide, results for specifically summer. To provide a little recap, in spring, we had an increase of 186% in number of households reached. And we had a 283% increase in class registrations. So that was a big jump. And for summer, we had an additional 18% increase in household numbers and a 95% increase in number of class registrations. So that's a great jump from one to the other. And just to not forget that staff had the opportunity to take time with families. They've been doing an amazing job. And on our next slide, we have our partnership with the Migrant Education Program from Beaverton School District. So Migrant Education receives funds from the Oregon Department of Education to spend in enrichment activities. So for this, we started partnering with them this year to connect families to camps, classes, activities, passes, and much more. So to just give you an example, for summer, we utilized $52,000 in programming. We want to continue to just celebrate this partnership. It's a partnership that has been nurtured, it's still growing, and it definitely is an additive that magnifies this access that we can provide for families. And that's about it, what I wanted to share with you all tonight.
Wonderful, as always, Lulu. You hear that every time. I think they should make you share something awful someday. No, this is great. Any questions for Lulu?
No questions, just lots of accolades and celebration to your team and everybody who does this. And I mean, the fact that our families keep coming back, you know that there's a reason for doing this, and you know that it's very helpful, and just like it's just a wonderful thing to see. And we hope to continue growing. Thank you so much, Lulu.
Thank you. And thank you all on behalf of all the team for also making this happen. Thank you.
Alfredo?
Hi, Lulu. Thank you for all this information. I'm pretty sure I could take a pretty good guess at this answer, but I wanted to hear it from you. But what do you think, the increase in just in both numbers, but especially the number of class registrations? Obviously, it's summer, but I guess I would assume it's just positive experience, the mouth. I mean, is there other things that you might point to as far as just why we keep reaching more and more?
Number one, that partnership was key with Migrant Education Program.
Okay.
But the main thing is that when we did it on registration day, by the time we said, Bienvenidos, hello, sit down, let's look at this guide, 8:05, 8:10, the classes that maybe they wanted, maybe swimming, maybe gymnastics, they were all gone. So we didn't even get to share with them some of those activities. And now that we do this activity before registration day, we really get to go through the whole activity guide, and families can actually select from those activities, and we can take that time and they can really select and not be under pressure of trying to get almost what's left over, to say it in a way. Yeah.
Thank you. And then I asked this question earlier. I didn't know if you knew the answer. Aisha promised you would. I was just curious if you knew how Welcome Week, now that we're just kind of on our own under the national organization of it, are we still working in concert with City of Beaverton or kind of parallel? Or I didn't know if you knew how that was going to work.
We're still collaborating. City of Beaverton shares our activities. We will share theirs. There's actually one amazing activity it's an Afghan community welcoming event happening at Garden Home. That's a collaboration between the City of Beaverton and THPRD alongside culturally specific organizations. So yes, the answer is yes, we're still collaborating with them, supporting each other. We're trying to make events in a way that we don't collide with one another, so people have a full week full of activities. So we're trying to get there.
Beautiful.
We're going to have a busy welcoming week.
Thank you.
This is such a testament to amazing staff and staff that bring lived experience, cultural skills, multilingual skills. And I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, I've only been here 5 years, and to see this program grow from a one-day morning program to now week-long. And I know there's so many staff that are involved in this that I've never had the pleasure of meeting, that have influenced this work, that have brought their own lived experience to this work. And it's just, I mean, it's amazing, Lulu. So please extend our appreciation and constantly being impressed with this work. We have the very fortunate job of getting to set the values for the organization, but then y'all have the challenge of going to do the work that lives out those values. And I mean, my goodness, way to hit it out of the park. Heidi?
Yeah, and just reflecting on, how organizations have over, many years now really invested in technology and registration systems and the like to make them easier to get through. But I think regardless of how easy or how difficult a registration system is, there are individuals who want and who need that one-on-one or that personal attention. I see that from my point of view in my own personal work. And I'm glad we're moving this direction to, technology is great, but it doesn't serve everybody in the same way. And so just kudos, very, very exciting. And remembering that first day that you did it, I wasn't on the board yet, but I remember over there at, was it at LFC Stir maybe? And just, how it's grown over the years. Well done.
Now I get to see what it's like for staff to have to follow Lulu. So, haha, everybody. Thank you, Lulu. With that, we have finished unfinished business, and we'll jump into new business. And I wanted to take this opportunity to share a little bit about the Metro levy as just a reminder, but it should all sound very familiar. So we had a presentation about this very recently from Councilor Rosenthal and Gonzalez. As you're well aware, Metro is a really critical partner to us in every way, and Cooper Mountain is just one example. Nature and Neighborhoods is probably their most popular program, which would continue to be funded through this levy renewal, and ensures that our wonderful peers in this work also get the funding that they need. Would maintain this would maintain the existing tax rate of 9.6 cents per $1,000 assessed value. So it's just continuing the annual fee. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm looking for ultimately a motion to approve the support of the Board of Directors in endorsing this Metro levy.
Well, I would like to move that the Board of Directors approve the resolution 2022-11, supporting the passage of the Metro Council local option levy renewal. I know I didn't give much time for questions, so forgive me, but I want to, having spoken to this earlier last week and knowing all that Metro does and the partnership, I'm happy to move that we approve.
And this is Tia. I am happy to second.
Jess, will you take roll?
Barbie Minor,
Yes.
Alfredo Moreno,
Yep.
Tia Ping,
Yes.
Heidi Edwards,
Yes.
Felicita Monteblanco.
Yes. With that, there is nothing else on the agenda. So have lovely evenings, everyone. Take care. See you next month.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Everybody.
Thanks, staff, for staying so late.